Well, to start, I think the hanging stuff where you have to, pull the legs because of the gravity, I think it's a great way to interlink the planetary science and like this practical aspect while also making the golds look even more evil.
Hello, and welcome to episode 32 of the Audiobook Club podcast. I'm Stephen, and I'll be hosting this time around. With me, as always, are my three friends, Michael, Jason, and Jonathan. Say hello, lads.
Hello, lads.
Hello lads.
In this episode, we'll be discussing Red Rising. So, this book is set in the distant future where humanity has been united, inverted commas, under the name of the Society, which operates a sort of caste system. As the Society, mankind has conquered the solar system and colonised its various planets. To achieve this feat, humanity has undergone some bioengineering and has developed into 14 colours of the aforementioned caste system. Each colour and its people are built for a particular purpose or role, such as mining or ruling mankind or maybe bureaucracy or whatever. Stuff like that, or sailing starships, etc. So this is developed into a sort of hierarchical pyramid structure with the golds, who are the rulers of the society, on the top, and the reds, who are typically manual labourers and miners, on the bottom. We follow Darrow on the planet Mars, who is a red miner and member of the Lambda clan, which is one of the numerous clans of reds throughout Mars. And they have been tasked with colonising Mars and getting it ready for the weaker colours, or the so-called weaker colours. Darrow is a helldiver. This is a type of job which is suited to the more dexterous and intelligent of Reds. And early in the book, Darrow's wife is hanged for singing a forbidden song, and this event leads him to becoming involved with the Sons of Ares, who are attempting to liberate the Reds and make the society a more fair place, but to the higher colours they seem like terrorists. Darrow is tasked with infiltrating the goals and rising to a position of importance, at which point his newfound resources can be used to aid the Sons. So that's just a quick wee summary of the first book in the series. Alright, so why did I pick this book? I picked it because it's I absolutely love this series, and this is the first one, and I wanted to kind of share it with the listeners and also get everybody's opinions here. Jason and I have talked about it at length before. I know Michael has read it before, but I don't think we've really talked about it. And so I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts that sort of way. And hopefully share the joy of the book, the joy that I find in the book, with our listeners. And it's one that I go back to regularly, and it was about that time again. So yeah, quick review from everybody. I think I want to go to Johnny first, because I know you're the only one who hasn't read it before, or listened to it, I suppose. So, what did you think?
High level, yeah, I really enjoyed the book. Thought the story was very good. I think the start was good, but I think this book really got very good for me whenever, he started doing this, the trial kind of part, and all that. Whenever he was actually infiltrating the golds and
when he went to the testing and stuff.
Yeah, when he started doing all that, and then actually did the final challenge thing, which we'll discuss later. I thought it was really good then. Yeah, I think my only gripe with the book is that it basically isn't a standalone. It's kind of the story continues on the next one, but still really, really enjoyed the book.
Great, glad to hear that. Yeah, I think from what I remember the first time I listened to it, I think I had the same problem with the start being a bit slow. It was good, but it was slow, sort of thing. And then it kicked into it once, he infiltrates and whatever. But yeah, 100%. Good. Michael, go to you next, because I think we've briefly talked about it before, I think, and I sort of sensed that you weren't as keen on it as I was. So
yeah, Stephen. I think when we talked about it before, I think I said I liked it. It was good, but I didn't really elaborate on it that much.
That's a red flag for me.
And I still stand by that. I still stand by that. On the balance of things, I do like this book, and I do think it's a good book, but I do have gripes with it. just things that didn't work for me personally. So I'm going to get onto that. I want to talk about the good first, because I want to really stress that I do think this is a good book, and it has more good than bad for me. The good, I think I really love the Greco-Roman kind of influence that this book leans towards. I think the society is a really great, like, big bad. It's really well developed. You spoke briefly about the caste system. 2014, when this book came out, wasn't it? We had this big slew of, like, all these young adult dystopian novels, and they had these dystopian worlds, obviously based on, like, Huxley and Orwell fiction. They were kind of what spearheaded the dystopians in literature. And we had, like, the Hunger Games and Divergent and Maze Runner and all those stories. I think out of all that mix, Red Rising does this the best, because the world actually makes sense. Whereas on those, it's kind of like, you feel like the writers really wanted to have this dystopia, but they couldn't really make it make sense. Like, you have the Divergent, where they have the Candor, or it's split up into these 4 really arbitrary groups. The Hunger Games, their districts. It sort of holds up in the first book, but the more they dig into it in the series, the weaker it feels, and you can tell that the world kind of doesn't make sense. Yeah. And the same with Maze Runner. That series is an absolute hot mess. This division of, like, the golds, the reds and all, that makes a lot more sense than any of those books. It does it far better than them, in my opinion. There's one thing I think I prefer. I'm not going to do this the whole review, like, compare it to other books, but just in this part, there's one thing I find the Hunger Games does better for me, and that is, like, in Hunger Games, I'm not sure if I've got the percentages right, but just roughly this is how it felt for me. In the Hunger Games, the games is, like, the last 20% of the book, I think. Whereas in this, the big arena event is kind of like the last 70% of the book. So it felt a bit too weighty for me. I preferred it. I would have preferred, like, a bit more character development, when they're all meeting each other before that. I would have preferred a bit more of that to get to know them a bit more. I would have preferred, like, the arena to be maybe like 40% of the book, and just get a whole other segment where we got to know these characters more, because I really like some of the characters, like Severo and Mustang. I found them very interesting, and Cassius. Yeah, I just wanted more of them. And I know this as a series, and we probably do get to know them more throughout it, but I just wanted more of them in this book than we got, because obviously we have the
that is the thing. Like yeah, for sure. Those characters definitely get more not screen time, but book time. and the second book, for sure, and well, all the subsequent books, except maybe Cassius, he does appear, but not as much until book 4, and a bit towards the end of 3. But not to give it away. But it is. I think one of the things I was going to say about this before I get into the, like, full review, but there's, like, I had trouble putting the notes together for this, because there's a lot of plot points, like, interconnected, and it's so tight that I didn't want to leave anything out, and I think that might be why, like, some of the character development suffered in this first book, because it had to, like, lay the grounds for the following books, I'm not sure, but that's what it seems like in a way.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, it kind of touches on the characters, and I had a feeling these characters, I know there's stuff there, and I know there's development there, you can feel it, but it's just not giving you enough kind of in this book for me. But if it does it throughout the series, I'm happy to hear that, because I did want more. One thing I just wanted to say, another thing, you and Jonathan both agreed on this point, and I knew this was going to be the unpopular thing to say, because it basically disagrees with the vast majority of the reviews, which also said that the 70% is stronger than the start 30. But the start of the book was actually my favourite part of the book. I actually really thought it really gripped me, and I was really intrigued about it. And I thought, the point on the 30% mark where Darrow has the the surgery stuff, I thought that was a really, really great scene. I thought that was so well done.
Yeah, I think on re-listen, I think that's one of the strongest scenes in the book for definite. Yeah. That first time, though, I don't think it is. But yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and maybe it's because I've read it twice now that landed better for me. Another good thing, we haven't mentioned it yet, but the narrator is absolutely fantastic for this. There was times when I was like, is he annoying me though a bit? But I realised, because I read the written version then, and I realised it's just Pierce Brown's writing style at times is a bit grating for me. But there's other times where he writes so epically and so cinematically, and he like gives these brilliant visuals, but then there's times he uses like these so many short sentences and it's punch 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 punch, and I just wanted like a bit of more variability, and I wanted the story to relax a bit at times and just give us a wee bit more character and stuff. Those were my only gripes. But still, I focused a lot on the negatives there because I thought I was going to be questioned more about them.
I think they're fair points, to be honest. And if that's your main gripes, I'm happy enough, to be honest with you. So
yeah, I do want to stress, I think this was a great opener to the series, and you know, I can feel there's a lot of intrigue and world building, and I can feel that these characters do have more to them that will probably be fleshed out in future books. It's just I wanted to care more about what was going on in the arena, and if I had had the character development a bit more, I think I would have cared more, because I could tell what was happening in the arena was really cool and really cinematic. I just really wanted to be afraid for the characters, you know, a bit more.
Yeah. I think another thing though, it is supposed to be focused on Darrow. They do have character development, but it really mostly follows him. And yeah.
Yeah. There, as one thing though about Darrow, I get a little bit cold towards him after his transformation, even though I thought the transformation was so cool. And I know the point is that he is he's grappling with becoming this anger fueled being, and that's kind of the point. But it just made me feel a wee bit distant towards him, and I think what pulled me back towards him then was that not to get in the spoiler territory too much, but there's a scene with Mustang that it made me draw back to him. And another good thing I wanted to talk about too, I thought his relationship with Cassius and the way the tension played out when them two were communicating with each other, I thought that was really, really well done in this book as well. So yeah. Mixes of good and bad for me, but the good definitely outweighs the bad.
You know, what you said about going cold towards Darrow, I think you're supposed to a wee bit. And it kind of leads into how his character develops into the second book. Because Not to get too much into it, but it's almost like he is sort of becoming like a Gold, and he grapples with that himself, you know? So yeah. I think you're supposed to dislike that about him, because the Golds are effectively the villain. Do you know?
I'm happy to hear that, because I was actually thinking I wish he had have grappled with something like that a bit more, like kind of what have I become? So I'm glad that Pierce Brown does do a bit more of that in the second book, because I was like, what could have humanized Darrow to me a bit more in the second half of this book? What would have made me more on board? And I think that conflict would have really brought me back with him. But I was a wee bit cold towards him. But like the moments with Mustang and some of the moments at the end when he has more camaraderie with people like Severo and Pax, I came back towards him a bit.
Yeah, like and another thing, he has a bit of a tube. Like, he keeps making mistakes, and it annoys me sometimes.
At least it's not Mary Sue.
The first time. Well, that's it, yeah.
It's a hot head, yeah.
Yeah, cool. No, that was good. I'm glad to hear, Michael. That was really good. Jason, tell me how much you hated it.
1 out of 5.
There we go.
There we go. It's out the gate. 1 out of 10. Yeah, I think I've probably mentioned before. Like, you introduced me to this book. I think the 2 books you asked me to read once upon a time was this and Hitchhikers, and both varying degrees of success. I have since listened through the entire series up until the newest release. This is my first time re-listening, and I feel like Michael and yourself have probably actually captured most of the sort of points I wanted to sort of talk about. I mean, I suppose it's probably fairly obvious I really like this series as a whole. I do think there are better books in the series, but that's not what we're basing this review on, I suppose.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Just to back up, what you were chatting about and what Stephen was sort of saying, there definitely is future sort of development of the characters and the relationships involved, and also that sort of conflict Darrow has between being a red and being a gold definitely is one of the main story points further down the line. I would probably agree as well with what you sort of said about the opening being a bit better than the sort of trial. Definitely second time round. It's not. I really like the whole book. Don't get me wrong. I have no issues with the sort of last 70% in the sort of trial, the year-long trial thing. I just I mean, again, you've already sort of mentioned like the obvious comparisons for me the whole time was just like it feels a bit like a Hunger Games. Essentially, this book especially, it does sort of get away from that in subsequent books, but this book, I thought the very obvious comparison was just how similar it was to the Hunger Games, but it is just very much that young adults dystopian that came out around that same time.
Yeah,
but I feel like it moves away from.
I think Ender's Game too.
Yeah, like I feel like it moves away from the sort of young adults. I feel like it does get more mature as well as the series goes on. I don't know if you'd agree, Stephen. But
100%. I think from the second book on, probably.
I mean, this book has some very dark stuff as well. It probably does pull out of the young adult stuff. Like I probably wouldn't be classed as young adults because there is the sort of issues of rape and sexual violence.
Rape and,
yeah. So it's probably like majority of the book is young adult until it suddenly isn't, you know.
Teeters on the edge, yeah, I'd say.
But no, I don't think it does in a bad. As in, I don't think it's a negative that it is a sort of a bit of a YA novel.
I think yeah, 100%. And I would say from the second book and definitely the third book, it just goes completely out of young adult, I would think.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Harry Potter.
Yeah,
maturization, essentially. No, overall, I mean, yeah, really like the book, really like the choice.
Yeah, it does definitely have a lot of parallels with Hunger Games and Ender's Game as well. And I think it even, like, there's a quote on the front of the book about both those books. But I think similar to like a show like Stranger Things, it seems to pay and be very self-aware of its like influences. So it doesn't hide them or anything, and I like when a book is like that. It's upfront about, you know, this is my take on this or whatever. I once heard like a rule for putting out content: you should either do it first, do it different, or do it best. And I'm not sure if this definitely didn't do it first, and I'm not sure if it's that different, but I do think it did it best. So it definitely wins at that, and that, you know.
Yeah, I wonder too. I don't think it is, but like, could it be like a meta thing as well? Because, like, you know, it's similar to the Hunger Games. You could say that he's, you know, maybe stolen a bit from the Hunger Games. I don't think he has, or Battle Royale, which the Hunger Games stole from. But
yeah,
you
true. Know, that should be mentioned.
Yeah, the society kind of, you know, they steal their whole culture from the Greeks and the Romans. So maybe it's a little meta joke there. I don't know. Good. All right, I'll move on to the review because there's loads of it, and like I said, I tried to break it up as much as possible, but there's so many like wee bits that I found. Like I was writing out my notes, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot about this thing that's like key to the whole thing. So I had to go back and put it, and I kept doing that. So I found it hard to leave stuff out. So if I end up like, trailing off and just rambling, try and rein me in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so I've broken it up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sort of chunks.
That's not too
bad. I'll just give you... What's that?
So that's not too bad. I was expecting it to be longer.
They seem long.
5 is pretty reasonable.
But yeah, so I've given each of them a title, so just a wee teaser. So the first chunk is called Helldiver. Then we have Lazarus. Then the Institute and Titus. Then The Fall, and then Rise.
Sounds good.
Happy days. Right, okay. So, Helldiver. We'll kick on this. So, as previously mentioned, we follow Darrow, who's a red miner, and at the start of the book, he's like performing his duties as a Helldiver, which is like, I can't remember if I said it, it's a type of job that Reds do. It's like you have to be super dexterous and intelligent to be able to operate this drill. So, we're kind of, led to believe that he's an intelligent, skilled guy among the Reds. So he's doing his job, and they're using their machinery to mine for helium-3, which is the fuel that powers the space travel, or that humanity uses for space travel and other things. It is Laureltide, which is a festival that the Reds celebrate, where the best performing clan, mining-wise, are gifted like rare items from Earth, such as medicines and coffee and fruit, sugar. And you might think, oh, those things aren't rare, but on Mars, because the ships all come from Earth and they have to like travel a big distance and they only have so much cargo and they have to support all the Reds on Mars, they don't have enough room for all these things that we would like take for granted, I suppose. So they give them out as like a reward for being really good at mining. Okay, and they do that at a festival called Laureltide. So Darrow's clan, Lambda, they're pretty sure they're going to win the Laurel this time round. They've got really high like raw count of helium-3, and they're all buzzing about it. On the last day, they're like mining, and Darrow thinks, to make sure he's going to win, he estimates that he has to mine a certain amount of helium to make sure that he wins, and there's like a gas pocket where he's mining. So his uncle kind of tries to stop him from going down and scanning it because it's dangerous and whatever, and he sort of says, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway. And so, we see what Michael was saying earlier, where he's like a hothead, and he just, tries to get things done and ends up injuring himself. So anyway, they go back for Laureltide, and everybody's buzzing, and he kind of hides the injury that he has and stuff, so you can see he's a wee bit deceptive as well. But they have this big festival where we meet some of Darrow's family, like Io, his wife, and his mother, and different red characters that don't really feature much after the first bit of the book. His wife, Io, tells him that she has a surprise for him, and they'll exchange sort of gifts after the festival, because he says he has one for her too, meaning that they're going to win. But as the celebrations occur, it turns out that the Gamma clan has won the Laurel, which they always seem to win, and it seems like it's rigged so that they always win. Darrow, feeling a bit dejected, goes with his wife to see her surprise, which is they travel to the Webbery, which is where the women of the clan work, and a seismic tremor has revealed this passage, and following it up, they end up in this big beautiful garden, which is encased in a big glass dome, and there's trees and flowers and butterflies and stuff, and you can see the stars. And this is like something that very few Reds would see, because they spend all of their time underground, and because Mars is supposedly not terraformed, so they don't see grass or anything like that, so it's like a beautiful thing. But they're a bit raging because the Greys don't share it with them. The Greys are like the sort of police or military of the society, and they kind of hoard this garden for themselves, even though like the Reds it would have been because of them that it was even built. So his wife is sort of this rebel who's very opinionated about the society and how unfair it is and stuff. So they get caught trespassing in this garden, and they're sort of like publicly shamed, and I think they get whipped. And Darrow believes that once they get their punishment, they'll be free to go, and everything will go back to how it was. But the Arch-Governor of Mars, a Gold by the name of Nero Augustus, is in attendance, and he holds like the position of Arch-Governor, which is like the main man on Mars. And he is there. Darrow believes that he is there because Darrow is a helldiver, and it's like to set an example to him for having such a high position. So set an example of him for having such a high position and still being out of bounds and whatever. So they get whipped, and Io, being the rebel that she is and aware that the Golds are there, she performs a forbidden song and dance called the Reaping Song, and this is like a rebellion song, and she ends up getting hanged for it. And there's a really there's a sad bit of the book, and this keeps getting touched on like throughout the series, a couple of times in this book anyway. But on Mars, there's very little gravity, which means that to be hung, your feet must be pulled, and they let the loved ones do it, which is pretty grim. To go back to that like young adult thing we were talking about earlier, this is pretty grim part of the story. So Darrow ends up pulling his wife's feet, and she dies, and in defiance, later on, he goes back and like retrieves her body to bury it in that garden that they found. And of course, he gets caught doing this, and he is also sentenced to be hanged. But on his way there to retrieve his wife, he's stopped by his uncle, who gives him a drink from his flask. And Darrow starts to feel a wee bit groggy after this. Anyway, he buries his wife and gets hanged, and Uncle Nero pulls his feet, which is important. And that's sort of where I'll leave that first wee bit. Okay, so let's see, what do we think, Jason? I'll go to you first, and so I went to you last before.
So I suppose, a bit of context, like this is my second time round listening, as I say. So I think this time, like I've been through the whole series, so this time I sort of knew what was coming. I was probably trying to pick out anything I might have missed first time round, and just like having a better understanding of who the characters and everything are already, I think did help. But I thought it was a really great opening. We just get introduced to the sort of the Red Society, or at least what Darrow thinks the normal Red Society is, but we'll touch a bit more on that in the next sort of section. Good plug, I know, but a bit too early. But I think the biggest sort of most intense part of this is obviously the hanging section. I think it's quite a nice sort of sweet moment, and one thing that I've just remembered, one thing that I did pick up on, but I don't think it gets mentioned in this book, so I'll not discuss it, but I think Eo wanted to tell Darrow something.
That's right, yeah.
Which we know what that is, but I don't think we find out what that is in this book, if I'm right.
No, that's book 2.
Yeah, so we'll just ignore that. But that was something I picked up on, and that he never got to hear what she wanted to tell him. So yeah, they have a nice wee lovely time in this garden, and then they get the punishment, and Eo, as you sort of said, sings this sort of reaping song. I suppose the reaping sort of becomes a bit more important down the line also, but I think the one sort of issue I potentially could have with this opening section is, I don't really know how to put this in words, but I suppose like you have to sort of suspend your belief a little bit in the whole sort of Nerol just knowing that Darrow was going to go and get himself killed, so Nerol sort of knew he had to poison him and they knew he had to hide the body. I think that's like the one sort of thing which is just a bit like almost too coincidental nearly.
It was too neat, yeah.
Like I don't know how else I could have wrote
Contrived.
that. Yeah, contrived. Yeah, that would be my one sort of flaw with this section. But I think it's great opening. Really sets. Well, I was going to say it really sets the tone, but it actually doesn't set an awful lot of tone, because I feel like we see such a tiny part of the universe until like the sort of next sections when it really kicks in, you know.
Well, I think it sets about the tone. It sets the sort of anger, right?
It sets the anger, yeah.
Of the society,
yeah.
And then the tone evolves in the next bit.
And then the whole universe just opens up in the next bit. You know, it goes from a very sort of self-contained almost story to universe.
Yeah,
expanding.
Good.
That was good.
Cool. Michael? Yeah, good man.
Yeah, I would give the part that you've gone over, I would give it top marks. Like, I thought it was a great opening. I really enjoy gritty sci-fi, like I'm not talking about like hard science fiction. I mean like where it's physically dirty. It's described as dirty, and it's all these machines and everything, because sometimes the vision of sci-fi is like, oh, it's going to be all pristine and clean. So I really like that. It's kind of the Star Wars thing, isn't it? That's why part of the reason Star Wars is so endearing. I really liked the characters, the Reds. I liked Nero, liked Eo and everybody, and Darrow. When we first meet him and everything, I thought they were all very compelling characters. I really liked the relationship between Darrow and his uncle, and Darrow and Eo. I thought it was a really sweet, nice relationship between them, in a really believable way that they communicated. I really loved the machinery, all the stuff that was described, the kind of the sweating and the working. It's like this depiction of the Irish immigrant working class. It's obviously a reference in that a bit. And there's sort of a romanticism to that as well, even though it is like these horrible conditions. It's like all having the crack together, all on this together, you know. I like that. I really like that aspect of the story. I like the intimacy. As Jason said, like we're closed on here and we don't know the full world. But I like that. I like when a big, massive story has these like small scope sections and these bits of intimacy. They make you feel a lot more going forward. So I thought it was an extremely effective opening. Where did you leave off, Stephen? I don't know how far to talk about it. Did you leave
just
off?
Just after he gets hanged.
After he gets hanged. The scene with Eo singing the song and getting hanged and everything, I thought it was a great scene, a very moving scene. It really sets up the story. It really gives that strong tone and like makes you feel the anger and the injustice of it all, what the Reds are going through, and it really makes the Golds and the society at large, this really hateable presence, and you're just really on board with at this point. So I would give this part of the story top marks, definitely. I really enjoyed this part of the story.
What did you think about Ugly Dan as a character? He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, I thought that I really liked all the Reds. You know, I like as Jason said too. We kind of leave them then. I thought that was there's a bit of a shame in that, you know, because I thought the Reds as a whole were very endearing.
Maybe they'll come back later. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe we'll see them again.
Yeah, maybe. You sort of mentioned there about it being like based on like the Reds being sort of based on Irish immigrants and stuff.
Yeah,
that is exactly what they're based on. There's, I think, in universe in book 2 or 3, one of the Reds mentions that they are descendants of the Irish Isles, the people of the Irish Isles.
Yeah, so. And the narrator leans hard onto that too. Like,
yeah.
He does a big Irish accent a lot of time, doesn't
he? Yeah, cool, Johnny.
Yeah, I thought the opening was fantastic. Yeah, all the characters that were introduced to are great. I liked the whole description of, you know, the Darrow being the, you know, the drill operator and is basically the man about town kind of thing. He's, you know, that's the high position, and, you know, have to be very skilled, and also setting up this character, and obviously a lot of his dexterity things and skill comes back later on. I liked the whole thing with the golds, how they're set up as the villains. Like, they start, I think, the hanging stuff where you have to, you know, pull the legs because of the gravity. I think it's a great way to interlink the planetary science and like this practical aspect, while also making the golds look even more evil, and also bringing 100%. In like this like sadness that you have to be the one effectively that finishes off your loved one. I thought that was it's brilliant, like brilliantly done with that. I liked as well how the contrast between Io and Darrow, like the way that Io obviously doesn't like the fact that she knows they're basically enslaved, like an enslaved race by the Golds and everyone else above them or whatever, and she is not happy with that. But Darrow is just like he just being with her is all he needs, and he's very reluctant to fight. You know, he just like let's just like, you know, take our punishment and just go back to the way things were, because, you know, I've got everything I need. I suppose that's good for him saying, because he has like one of the top dogs in the Reds because of the job he has and stuff. But yeah, he's just content with his life and would happily just continue the way things are and just pay no notice to the above. And then Io's the complete opposite. She, you know, just cannot allow this to happen. Yeah, it's just like her being like that. She knows. It's almost like she knows the only way she can't do it herself. Like, she's not strong enough or powerful enough to, or influential enough to defeat them, but she knows secretly that Darrow is, and like she has that belief in him, but she knows the only way she can convince him is with her own death, which I think is a quite powerful image. Yeah, I thought the whole opening scene up until Darrow's death is just brilliantly done. I think my part that I was referring to earlier with slowing down was more this next part after this that you're about to describe. But yeah, I thought this opening was very, very strong.
Oh really? Okay, that's interesting, because this for the first time for me anyway, it was the first bit was slow, and then this next bit was where it kicked off.
Well, like this bit's expectedly slow, but it's like I understand why it's slow. It's more like, you know, you have something and then everything is taken away from you and you have to kind of rebuild from the ground up. But
yeah, 100%.
Maybe just went a bit too long for me or something. I don't know. I didn't hate it or nothing. It was just an obvious difference between the start and then the like last 70%.
It definitely does shift a few gears very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, so I'll move on to the next section now. So this is Lazarus. So after being hanged, Darrow awakes sometime later somehow, buried in a shallow grave in an old, disused but like ventilated mining tunnel. He wonders how he's not dead because, you know, he was hanged, and I think he believes that Uncle Neril drugged him, so to like mask his life signs after being hung, and like failed to pull his feet properly, and then buried him. So he thinks his uncle basically saved his life. A vehicle approaches, and it's revealed that the Sons of Ares have come to recruit Darrow. The Sons of Ares. I think I touched on those in the first summary that I did, where they're trying to liberate the Reds, but they sometimes come off as a bit like terrorists. So they've come to recruit Darrow. They take him to meet Dancer, who is a sort of leader within the Sons. It's never really revealed what level position he has, but he's some sort of high up figure within the Sons. He sort of confirms Darrow's suspicions about his uncle's duplicity and reveals that Io has become a martyr and a symbol of hope among the Reds, and they're like graffitiing her all over the place and all this stuff, which he doesn't really like, but I guess she probably would have liked that. The Sons get a lot of support because of her death, and there's a lot of anger towards the Arch-Governor and the Golds because of it. And that becomes a bit more prominent in the next book, so you should read it. Dancer asks Darrow to play a game, and I really like this scene now, where he asks him to play a game where he presents him with a bowl containing 2 cards, and he tells Darrow that one card is a scythe and the other is a lamb, and they remain face down until Darrow picks one. And to win the game, all he has to do is choose the lamb card. Choose a scythe and he loses. So Darrow quickly realises that it must be some sort of test, because there's no way for him to know which one is, because they're both face down, there's no way for him to choose the right one. So he deduces that they must both be sides, and that it's like a logic test sort of thing, or not a logic, but a test to see what he's going to do. So he picks one of the cards, declares it's a lamb, and then before Dancer can have a look, he shoves it in his mouth and eats it, saying that it's too good not to eat, which I think that's a really good line. And Dancer's impressed with his reasoning, and so he tells Darrow about this plan that he has, which is to have Darrow infiltrate the Golds, but to do so he must become like them, which is a major problem because the Golds are built like gods. They stand at like 7 foot tall minimum. Their bone density is like 5 times stronger than average. It would be impossible for just some normie to, infiltrate. Especially for Darrow, because he has the body of a red, so he's got red hair, red irises, red sigils. He's like half the size of a Gold, so it doesn't really seem possible. But he is taken to a carver by the name of Mickey, sort of a bio-modification specialist. So they take him to this guy Mickey, who they want him to turn Darrow into a Gold. Basically replace his whole body, or change his whole body to be more like a Gold, so double his size, increase his bone density, change his eyes, his hair, everything about him, so that he can infiltrate the Golds. Mickey says that it's impossible because, for all the other reasons that I stated a minute ago, but you'd have to replace his whole body, and then there's stuff like that are attached to the Gold's brains, and there's like a whole host of reasons why it shouldn't be possible, and it would just end up killing a person. He's convinced to try it when, and one of the things, is that he says even if we managed to make him look like a Gold, you couldn't make him smarter. And he sort of agrees to do the whole thing when Darrow takes this puzzle cube that Mickey was trying to solve and solves it really quickly, which impresses him. He's like, oh, this guy actually is intelligent, sort of thing. So that's the sort of second section. I'll stop there.
I really, really enjoyed this part. I think this is probably my favourite part of the book. I think the Sons of Ares, that it's an intriguing organisation. I don't want to make comparisons to paramilitaries, but did remind me of that, especially the name Dancer. That is such a code name. But
Irish
I really
rebels being paramilitaries.
Hello. I really enjoyed Dancer as a character, and I agree with Stephen about that moment where Darrow eats the card. That was a really great moment and very clever way to show that he has this wit and this ability to think different than the usual people that they probably bring in. I thought Mickey was a very good character too. I thought it was even though we don't get much of these characters right now, but I thought what was portrayed of him was very unnerving, and the whole idea of a carver and everything, that was just, it's very horrific, but I mean that in a really good way. It's just, it's it's like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Greek myth, the ship of is it Theseus, where the entire ship is replaced, and it's like the question is it even the same ship anymore if every single piece is replaced? So it was kind of that brought onto a human, you know, and there's something quite haunting about that, especially the way the process is described. It sounds like the most horrific thing possible, and Pierce Brown doesn't pull any punches on describing it. I thought that was an absolute great moment. Just the description and everything was so vivid and so well done, and so evocative, and the pain that Darrow goes through and the trauma, as you said. And we get obviously the moment he drinks the potion and he scales his intelligence by like speed reading all these books, which was a lot more satisfying than the thing I had an issue with in Ready Player One, which was, not to harp on about that again, but Wade being able to read all those fucking books. At least that made sense, you know. But my only thing, I was like, he's read all those books, and then I think it's like a few scenes later or something, he's like, he doesn't know what shampoo is. I was like, surely one of those books mentioned shampoo at some stage, but maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, I thought this was the best part of the book. It was really, really good description, really cool. I was really on for this part.
Nice, yeah. I always wonder about the shampoo thing. I wonder, sometimes the delivery makes me think that it's a joke that he's saying to the guy, but I don't think so, yeah. Alright, Jason?
I've never actually picked up on the shampoo bit, I'll be honest. One thing I tried to not jump in when you were talking there, Michael, but it was almost too weird of timing for you to make the reference regarding the ship of Theseus. This is completely unrelated to the book, but I've just finished reading Mickey 7, like literally today. I don't know if any of you have read it, but
no.
There's a lot of references to that book, or that ship, sorry, during the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've literally just finished it. I've literally read it in the last week and finished it today, and I was like, fuck, I haven't heard about this ship in years and can't get away from it now. Yeah, it was good. It's been made into a film, but that's a different story. This is a good section. I think, let's just get out and open. I think I'm going to say that for most of the sections, if not all the sections. Dancer and Mikey, as Michael touched on, two great characters. Don't get fully fleshed out, but again, I feel like, I'm not entirely sure. I think we do run the both of them down the line. If definitely not, if they're not discussed. Anyways, yeah, I really like both of them. Actually, I think Dancer's a bit of a dick, and so is Mickey. But
Mickey's definitely a dick.
Mickey is a dick,
but
yeah, he's definitely an arse in this book, I suppose. Gets a wee bit of redemption, I suppose, down the line. But I don't think I have an awful lot more to say. I think like the main sort of striking point of this was like when Dancer shows Darrow that actually, you know, he's just been slaves for hundreds of years. This place has been terraformed for centuries, and they're all just taking the piss out of you down there. I think that was quite harrowing. Like, you know, it's just crazy to think about. It's actually really dark. It doesn't read that dark, but to me, if you sort of think about it, like, that's actually insanely dark.
No, 100%. Can you imagine if somebody came to you now and says, "Mirror with me," would he say this? And like, he shows you that you're a slave your whole life.
It's a bit like the Matrix.
Exactly like the Matrix.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I suppose, yeah. It's just sort of ripping off that band-aid, sort of taking away that illusion. Yeah, it's an insane sort of thing to happen, and I suppose it's sort of, this is the moment where it breaks us into the tiers of society, and actually the sort of how shit the Reds have it, how shit the Mars Reds have it anyways. Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought the whole sort of process and starting to make Darrow into the gold was all great. I think Darrow sort of slightly becomes a bit of a Mary Sue here for me in this little section. Like, I think this whole sort of solving all the puzzles and just knowing the right answers at this sort of section, I do think it's a wee bit of like, right, aye, fair enough, but I know he's not always like that, which is a bit redeeming. But no, like, yeah, mostly good for me.
Yeah, I did say that I felt it was a bit slower at this part, but wasn't necessarily a bad thing, and I just think I maybe enjoyed the other bits more, but I still really enjoyed this part. I think the whole transformation was very, very detailed, as Michael was saying, like quite gruesome. The character of Mickey, I thought it was extremely creepy. There's a bit, wasn't there, where like Darrow's like healing after the surgery and he's like stroking his hair or something.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he's basically like saying, "Oh, this is my baby," as in like my project or whatever. But it's just because it's a human being he's doing this thing. It's just extremely creepy. But
he keeps doing that too. Like it almost seems like he's in love with Darrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like the whole Sons of Ares, the whole idea of them. I like the name's even quite cool. You know, it's like Ares is obviously the god of war, so it's like these guys are the, you know, people that are going to war for the Reds essentially. But yeah, I like the whole idea that there's this kind of rebel group who were introduced to us in the earlier chapters as like a terrorist organization almost, or like that they're causing trouble and not to associate with them. But it turns out that they have good reason to be doing that, because they know the truth. But yeah, the whole transformation, then like the training that, you know, he goes through to become more like the goal, I thought was all quite interesting. There's who's that other character from the Sons of Ares, the girl that is not the one who like battles a lot of the time. There's another one, isn't there, that he fights? Is it, maybe it's not a girl. I can't remember who it is, but you know when he's like,
there's a girl called Harmony anyway.
Yeah, Harmony's the one that's a bit of a dick to him at the very start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was good too. But yeah, just the whole training and becoming like the golds, and you can even see then at this part, like, you know, at this stage, it's like him whenever, you know, just before he is complete and whatever sent out, it's kind of like it's all him acting like the gold is very exaggerated. Still, you still believe that he still sees the end goal and all, and he's not a gold, he's a red in gold's clothing or whatever. And I think this is a good like contrast then as he goes now and, you know, lives amongst the golds. He actually does start becoming like a golds, and you actually can't really tell, does he still realise his goal, or is he actually just full on gold now? So at this stage, it's good to like watch the transformation that's about to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. No, good points from everyone there. I'll go on to the next part here. The Institute and Titus. Part of I sort of missed out on, but you touched on a good bit there, Johnny, and a few of the others did as well. Was about him, like, you know, training his body, getting used to speaking like the golds and acting like the golds. After he sort of, you know, he's pretty good at pretending to be a gold, and he ends up taking this test to gain entrance into the Institute. And the Institute is like the most prestigious school for the golds, and only the best of the best can go there. But not much is known about the like curriculum of the place, or what they do there, or what's taught. So Darrow goes to take this test, and unexpectedly he aces it. It seems like a lot of the questions are similar to that scythe thing that Dancer showed him. It's all like what did he call it? It was like I can't remember, but like I remember one of the questions is like it's all sort of questions like if a fish has 100 scales on its left side and 99 scales on the right side, which side has the most scales? And the answer is the outside. You know, questions like that to test, you know, how you think about things. We find out through that he actually is an elite scorer on the test, which is quite amazing to think about, you know, because the golds are all supposed to have higher cognitive function. He just came in and wrecked them all out, you know. But anyway, soon he travels to the Institute, and on the way there, on the train, he meets a fella called Julian Bologna, who is this twin brother, this other guy that he met during the test, called Cassius, who is going to be a prominent character later. So Darrow impresses all the proctors at this, sort of like teachers at this school, and he impresses most of them anyway, and ends up being the first pick for House Mars, which I think is like the 7th pick overall. So anyway, he gets picked for House Mars, but on their first night, each student is kidnapped from their beds, stripped naked, and brought into this like stone room, where they find another student who likewise is, you know, naked and whatever. And Darrow ends up in a room with Julian. And Fitchner, Proctor Mars, enters and explains that there's not enough places in the house for everybody, and that only one of them will be allowed to leave alive. So Darrow ends up fighting Julian to the death, and Julian's just this wee weakling who gets battered. But it's quite harrowing for Darrow because he's killed his first person. After that, the next day they have orientation, and Fitchner sort of explains the rules or the game of the institute, if you like. The students they're dropped in this like remote, inescapable valley on Mars, and each house is given a castle, and the aim of the game is to conquer the other houses while simultaneously going through like each stage of humanity, so conquering fire and finding sustainable food sources and water and figuring out warfare and stuff like that, and how do you dispense justice and so on. Each house is also given a standard, and they can use this to enslave members of other houses, and that's essentially how you win. Enslave all of the other houses. So yeah, during this orientation day, Darrow gains his nickname of the Reaper, which is sort of a callback to that Reaping song from before, and there's a lot of Reaper stuff related to the Reds. But yeah, so he gets this nickname after he sort of bests this house Ceres boy. So after this, House Mars divides into 3 and a bit tribes. You have, I say tribes because they're not like one. They sort of split off and do their own things because they don't have a leader yet, and they don't really know what to do. So Darrow and Cassius has one tribe and consists mostly of like low drafts or dregs. There's a boy called Titus who's like a big monster Goliath sort of guy, and he mainly has high draft picks. Then most of the rest is led by a girl called Antonia, and then you have Severo's tribe, which is just him by himself because he doesn't want to play with the other Waynes. So anyway, Darrow quickly rises as the clear leader of House Mars and sort of unites the tribes, sort of. But while he's doing so, he comes into dispute with House Minerva, and Titus proves to be like a ruthless and kind of barbaric, evil person who, yeah, he's got a lot of barbaric behaviours, and he like his tribe does a lot of like rape and pillaging and stuff like that. They're pretty evil. Like at one stage, House Minerva manages to capture Mars, including Titus and his men, but with Severo's help, Darrow enters an allegiance with House Diana, and they use them to beat Minerva, and Darrow secretly allows the leader to escape, which will come back later to benefit him. So they get the castle back, and Darrow's basically the overall leader. He's not yet declared Primus, but he's as good as for the time being. And this is where his first like real test comes in. Like, as a leader, how will he dispense justice, sort of thing? So because Titus is captured and he's like, evil, he's been doing bad stuff, he has to be punished basically for all that he's done. Before he puts him on trial, Darrow like speaks with him privately, and Titus, during this conversation, Titus keeps mentioning like what they did to her and how they did it first, talking about like the stuff that he's been doing. And Darrow figures out that Titus is also a Red, and this kind of explains all the crimes that he's been doing, because the Reds have suffered the same, if not worse, by the Golds, and he's like trying to get revenge, sort of thing. And it's a sort of a weird moment for Darrow, because he's sort of torn between, he doesn't want to kill this Red like himself to benefit Golds, but he doesn't want to, but he needs to win as well. So it's a bit of a weird moment for him. But anyway, he basically puts Titus to the sword. Yeah, so who did I go to first last time? Jason, wasn't it? So yeah. Johnny, I'll go to you first.
So this kind of starting off going into basically this Hunger Games-esque setting. I really like this whole idea now, and what this kind of continues for the rest of the book. Yeah, it's kind of like, almost. I would also draw a comparison to what do you call that? Lord of the Flies. You ever read that? Where it's kind of like all these all these kids put on, and then they kind of trying to form tribes and stuff, and there's a lot of backstabbing and people, changing sides and whatnot. But I like the whole idea of it. Like, you start on the side, and it's like you kind of have to figure out how to survive, and even like who's in charge hasn't even been decided. You have to figure that out yourselves. And it's like this very, like, real life, problem solving issue. I liked how, I think this is where you kind of get Darrow, he feels like he's a gold. You get a lot of like inner monologue with him where he kind of is like, I'm a gold, I should be like just taking what I want. And this is where he's like trying to, assert himself and become the leader and stuff. So you get a lot of that. But he kind of, this is what I was saying earlier. It's still like, he's still a red at heart or whatever. And he has to, like, convince himself, I'm a gold. Golds don't, take no for an answer or whatever. He kind of has to convince himself to do these things at this point. Whereas later in the book, he's just, all this is just automatic to him. So I think, again, just going, that's the start of that conversion of him to full gold is begin at this stage.
Yeah, there's definitely a big conflict with him there, because, like I was saying, his first mistake, and it kind of keeps coming back to this, where he keeps doing things, like, he lets Cassius kill Titus to, like, basically, to being nice to his friend, but it actually ends up making him look weak, sort of thing. Yeah, and he keeps coming back. That's so he's sort of still trying to become a gold. Yeah,
I think the whole thing then, just going back a bit with the getting paired up with Julian, and having to do that battle of death, and this, it's like Cullen like taking out half of the weaklings, or like the bottom half essentially, and it's just like, I think they say there's this many, like some 100 million or billion or whatever golds in the universe. So it's hard if we lose, like, I think, I can't remember how many people there's, but say there's 1,000, it's like 500 and get killed or whatever. So it's like, like we're only losing a very small chunk as long as the better half survives. That's kind of like it's almost like because humanity has advanced so much.
It's forced natural
exactly,
selection.
Because humanity's evolved to the point where natural selection is no longer happening within humanity. It's like, they have to enforce it themselves. But I thought that whole thing was quite interesting, and the whole fact that it's like Cassius's brother that Darrow has to kill, and then it's obviously like, he keeps it a secret, and of course that's like foreshadowing for what's the future and all. And you've got this conflict this conflict that, like, Darrow knows he's done this, but he's always worried that Cassius is going to find out, and what will Cassius do when he finds out? But then I think he always tries to convince himself, but I had no choice and all. It's like, but will Cassius see it that way? I thought it was all quite interesting. And isn't there a lot of, like, even after that, there's Cassius is being like, killed a person, no bother and all. He's kind of a bit obnoxious about it. Little does he know that his brother has been killed by someone else, which I thought was quite funny. What else was covered here? The Titus. Like, I liked how there was a civil war essentially within the Mars house. And like they kind of broke off, and I think, isn't it like Darrow's side, like more or less him and Cassius were kind of leading it jointly at this stage, and then they had like the fire. How did they actually get the fire? Do you remember?
They found like a lockbox in one of some fire. And
so I think that was quite funny. Yeah, if I'll just say on that, that's quite funny. That's kind of like the Call of Duty Warzone or something, where there's like loot boxes hidden around the map or something. Quite funny. Well, it's almost kind of like shows that this is a game, or at least like the proctors or the people overseeing it see this as a game, and it's kind of like shown as this game. And then as it goes on and stuff, and as in they're like the med bots that come down to like heal anyone that gets hurt. So it's like no one's actually supposed to die here, or like very little, but you kind of see how barbaric it gets very quickly, and that they kind of maybe didn't. Or they're just kind of passing off and no one barely dies or whatever, but it actually is a lot of people end up dying, which I think is quite interesting. But like the whole back to the Civil War, and then like Cassius and Darrow were leading the one side, and then you had Titus' side who were like starving and stuff, and it was just kind of like you could see that like you knew that Darrow's side was going to end up winning because they were kind of always in the front foot and stuff, but then, which I did not see coming or whatever, was the whole fact that Titus would be a red. I just thought that was such a good, reveal. And it's kind of like, I think at that stage, Darrow was kind of losing himself into the gold a bit, and then this kind of brings him back to the reds again. It's like, geez, I'm about to kill one of my own, another person who's obviously trying to do what he's did and get revenge against the golds, and has disguised himself and all. It's I thought that, it was really interesting. I thought it was maybe going to be, doesn't he like end up still killing him or something, or he still wants him to get killed as soon as possible, because it's like, what if he realizes I'm a red, and then he kind of spills the beans?
There's a bit of that, but it's also like, I think it's more so he's gone the wrong way. This guy, like he's gone full revenge mode, where you have to be a bit more level-headed, and also I need to win here. And if I let him off,
fair enough. Yeah, I suppose it would to get him on his side. The only way would be to reveal that he's a red too, and then like you never know if he might use that against each other or whatever. But yeah, no, I thought this is where things are starting to really build up, and I just think from this point onwards, the tension just builds and builds. Especially the whole thing with Cassius and as Darrow was the one that killed his brother. I think I was always just sitting there waiting for that they, blow up. And the fact that, they get, you haven't even mentioned yet later, but like how they get so close, and I think they're like all calling each other brothers and all, and it's like they've created this family and all. It's just like, Jesus, what's going to happen whenever he finds out and stuff. Yeah, I just thought that was brilliant.
Nice, a lot of good points there, good man. Michael?
Yeah, the stuff with the Institute, I really liked. I liked getting to know the characters a bit more. The trial was a very interesting moment, and again, Pierce Brown doing what he does really well in this book, the really visceral, gritty descriptions, and Darrow using his bare hands and everything. It was a very visceral scene, and that obviously creates this undercurrent of tension that pretty much goes throughout most of the rest of the book, with Darrow and Cassius, which I think was one of the most interesting elements within the game. But my only thing about the Institute, I do wish this part was longer. I wish there was more character development and more intrigue and more tension being built here. It would have made me more invested in what happens in the game. If there was more of this, I would have wished there was more rivalries and stuff built up within this section. The proctors and the merit system, it's obviously very, very, as well, very heavily influenced by the whole sponsor thing within Hunger Games as well. The game, when that starts, I acknowledge maybe this is just a personal taste thing, because I know that this is unpopular, because I've read so many reviews, and I know a lot of people say what Jonathan says, this is where it picks up. This was probably my least favourite section of the book when they first go into the game, because it just, I don't know why. I'm trying to grapple like why it lost me a bit here. I think it was too early to go into the game. I just think it needed a bit more setup. Without that setup, it just felt to me like it was a lot of this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and I just didn't feel that invested in it as much as I wished that I was. I did find Titus an interesting foil in this section, and I thought the twist was really well done and really interesting, as a lot of the twists are well done within this book. But for some reason, just between that point and the Institute, it was a bit of a slog in this section for me. And I think it is just the fact that prior development wasn't there. And I think there wasn't a lot of, like, because things were so happening so physically, there wasn't like a lot of being in Darrow's head at this section of the book. We are mostly in his head, but like it's so much action described, and I just wanted him to be a bit more internal conflict as well. I thought maybe it would have made this section stronger for me. I know that goes against the grain of like what a lot of people say about this book. This is the part where it heats up for a lot of people. This was probably just part lost me just a bit.
No, I mean, that's okay. I can sort of see what you're saying. I don't agree with it, but like I can see that could be a thing for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, good points though. I like it. There was something I was going to say. Oh yeah, so you were saying about character development, like seeing the other. I think, did you say something about seeing maybe the other houses or something like that? But I think I mentioned this to you before, Jason, but I would love for him to write a book or a series of books about the other houses.
Like spin-offs, sort of, yeah.
The spin-offs, yeah, I would love that. It might be spoilers, but I think specifically I mentioned about Cassius this time, like throughout the series, because that's not to spoil too much. We don't see a lot of his stuff until later on in the series. So yeah, I would like a lot more character development as well after the fact. So I'm there with you.
I suppose it's just, I think there's so many characters, it's hard to develop all of them, isn't it?
That's the thing, yeah. But yeah, Jason, you want to go ahead?
I feel like Michael and Johnny have really actually touched on most of the highs and lows of this section. For me, good points were we just got introduced to a lot of sort of big characters for the book, for the series, such as Fitchner, we hear, well, Titus. From my memory of this book, I thought he was actually a bigger character in this, but you sort of introduced him and killed him off in this one section, so it doesn't last as long as I remembered. We get to meet the leader of House Minerva. I'm not entirely sure if we actually got her name at this point, but Mustang. And we also hear about the Jackal. And
I don't think you find out her name until the very end.
No,
or
maybe you don't.
Do you even hear it at all at this book? I'm not even sure.
I'm pretty sure you hear Mustang, but you don't get her actual name till the end of the book, as far as more because of who she is. Find out later.
You love the plugs.
Just so good at it. I was going to say, I can see sort of why Michael would maybe switch off at this bit. I probably would agree with you, Stephen. I don't necessarily. I don't find that this is a section where I switch off. I feel like the story definitely changes into previously where it was more of almost like a political sort of thriller, sort of, in a way. Bit of espionage. I know we're still in this sort of espionage when he's in this sort of institute, but for me it definitely goes from that sort of larger, wide-scale political sort of story to this young adult Hunger Games rip-off, for lack of a better term. But I'm still very happy with that. I like the sort of background tension between Darrow and Cassius, knowing what's happened to Cassius's brother, and that I like the sort of reveal also of there being another Red, and the sort of implications of Darrow not being the only gold convert. I still thought it was a good, strong section.
Good. This next section is the fall. So after the last section, after dealing with Titus and House Minerva, Darrow has effectively become the leader. He hasn't been given the Primus hand by the proctors yet, but he is leading the house, and they have all sort of come together. There's a bit of tension with Antonia and some of her tribe members, and Cassius is there being a bit, being the big balls after he's showed everybody they can kill really well. So he's kind of gone on like he does whatever he wants, sort of thing. But he still does listen to what Darrow tells him to do. So in a sort of roundabout way. But yeah, as I think Johnny, you mentioned about them, they all start becoming like a family. The sort of inner circle of Darrow and Cassius and Roke and several. They all start calling each other brother and talking about like what they're going to do after the Institute. And Cassius, I think, offers Darrow and Roke positions like in his father's army, effectively, or like I don't know, like a position of command within his whatever. And that's a bit funny because of obviously Darrow killed the other brother, so yeah, it's a bit a weird one. He accepts, of course, but I imagine that would be a bit of a weird one. So he's leading the house now, and during this time he's sort of making plans to attack the other castles and stuff. And around this time a rider appears from House Pluto, I think it is, and they've got a gift for Cassius from the Jackal, who we sort of hear about in the last chapter. And he has a gift for Cassius and offers an alliance with House Mars if Cassius kills Darrow. And Cassius sort of refuses, and because he realizes that the Jackal is just trying to put the two heads of the house effectively at odds with each other. Then there's this whole section where Roke goes missing, and like they think that he's been killed by Antonia, and like Darrow's lured out of the castle and stuff. But then later on, like a few hours later, Cassius comes to Darrow and says, "Oh, we found Roke. Come on, follow me. He's stuck. I need your help." But it's all a trick by Cassius, who himself became suspicious after several tried to steal the thing off him and opened the pouch. He reveals that it actually contained a recording of Darrow killing Julian, and so that leads them to the two friends to like duel each other. And of course, Darrow is no match for Cassius, so Cassius beats him and leaves him for dead in the snow. And I think he like twists the blade in his chest so that it doesn't heal properly or something. So like basically so that he's almost certainly gonna die, and like leaves him there. So Darrow's bleeding out in the snow, and again he wakes up and he's been rescued by Mustang, who is that former. Well, she's still the Primus of House Minerva, but she's on her own now. And he spared her before, so she's sort of repaying the favour now, sort of thing. So she takes him back to a cave and tends to him while he's in this like coma-like state. While he's recovering, they sort of become allies, and Darrow gets visited by Fitchner, who says, like, sort of let slip that the Jackal is the Arch-Governor's son and that Darrow cannot win because the Proctors are cheating to make sure that the Jackal wins because the Arch-Governor's paying them. So they give the recording of Darrow to the Jackal and everything so that he would fail because he was gaining too much momentum and was likely to win. So this game, like the Laurel, is also rigged, and that I think that sort of pisses Darrow off quite a bit. Fitchner also sort of lets slip that the Proctors are all in on it, and the ringleaders are Apollo and Jupiter. He also sort of... Fitchner's a wild mouth. He lets a lot of things slip, and sometimes you have to wonder if it was intentional or not, but he also lets slip that if a house is totally defeated, the Proctor which rules the house has to leave the Institute and sort of go back and explain why they lost. So Darrow conceives a plan that if he can defeat the ringleaders, i.e. Apollo and Jupiter, that he can still win by beating the Jackal because they won't interfere anymore. And along with Mustang, they sort of come up with this plan. So she still has her house standard, which means that she can still enslave people. So they decide to go and search for Oathbreakers. And an Oathbreaker is a student who has been like previously enslaved, but they, instead of like sticking to that, because like, it's just like a symbol that appears on your head, like you're not technically forced to do anything. If you decide not to do what you're told, you're an Oathbreaker, and you're basically shamed in the society then, and everybody like treats you like muck, right? So their plan is to recruit these Oathbreakers, enslave them again with Minerva's standard, and offer them freedom if they'll help them take over the other houses. So they build this big army of Oathbreakers and manage to take a few houses and just build up this big massive army. And they all sort of become loyal because I think one of the big... First of all, because there's incentive, you know, if they can earn their freedom and thus restore their social status. But also there's this scene where one of the fellas, Tactus, who Darrow had run-ins with previously, he sort of he thinks he's better than this whole thing, and like he's like what's called an iron gold, and his ancestors go back to like ancient times and whatever. So he thinks he's like a big deal sort of thing. So he doesn't really listen to what Darrow's saying, and he tries to rape this person or like this member of this house that they take over. And Darrow like decides to whip him to like dispense justice. And it seems like he's going the way he did with Titus again, where he's making a mistake and the whole army's going to turn on him sort of thing. But in a surprise twist, he then, after whipping Tactus, he lets himself be whipped to show his army that like if something happens to one of them, it happens to all of them, because they're like, you know, one... They should all be treated as one, and like... If something goes wrong, then they're all going to suffer. So that sort of like bonds them together a wee bit, and then they all become sort of loyal and whatever. So then they go about just destroying all the other houses and amassing this big massive army. And meanwhile, they're sort of travelling south away from House Mars, looking for House Apollo, so that they can deal with Proctor Apollo and get him off the board essentially. But the Proctors have sort of figured out what Darrow's doing now, and they obviously want to stop him because, you know, they're cheating. But they can't do it directly because, again, as Fitchner reveals, there's hidden cameras and nano cameras in the grounds of the Institute and also in the students' house rings that they all wear. And all of the drafters and Peerless Guard throughout the society like watch the game basically to see who they want to recruit later in life. So the Proctors can't be seen to be cheating because obviously they'll get in bother. So they have to do it really sneakily, and they like, you know, set horses free, and they poison their foodstuffs and infest it with vermin, and they do all these like set big massive bears on them and stuff. So they're travelling south trying to get rid of Apollo and also taking out all the houses on the way. I think that's where I'm going to stop this section. I just wanted to touch on another thing. So this is a new term that hasn't come up yet. Peerless Guard, and that's like another level within the society, which is like a level, sort of a gold who has risen higher than his peers, so they're peerless, and they've done something of great merit to earn their scar, which is like a big like slice that they wear on one side of their face, and that sort of distinguishes them as peerless. And you get to be a Peerless Guard if you win the Institute, so then you're a big deal sort of thing. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end that section, the penultimate section. And yeah, I'll go to Jason first. What did you think of this book?
Can I just say the great irony of the Peerless Scarred is that there are fucking hundreds of them.
I know, right?
There are many peers. This section, yeah, still a great section. Just sort of trying to look through at everything you covered there. So like, yeah, the Cassius betrayal scene and the subsequent duel between the two of them, I really liked. I really didn't see coming first time round. I thought it was a big twist, but it sort of makes sense, like how Cassius would sort of figure out about Severo trying to sort of snag this gift that was given to him, and yeah, the sort of duel and just leaving him to die sort of thing. It was all pretty grim. Then I know we're still in the sort of fall section, I suppose, but we're sort of also working into the redemption arc of Darrow, where him and Mustang and have this sort of they use all the slaves of House Minerva to sort of essentially work their way through the kingdom and destroy all these houses, you say. And I think another big thing is that sort of whipping scene with Tactus. I believe Tactus, was he also raping people, or he was definitely doing something?
Yeah,
evil?
he because I think it was like one of the whole things about the golds is that they take whatever they can take, they may take, sort of thing. Yeah. So he's saying like, I've captured this house, I've taken this person, this is mine now.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's trying to rape her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, I thought that sort of whipping scene was great. I thought it was really a good sort of show of strength from Darrow, and I thought it really sort of put Tactus in his place, because he really becomes like a wee lackey for Darrow after this. The introduction of not the introduction, but the sort of the theme then of the proctors sort of helping to get the jackal to cheat. Where am I going with this? I suppose this is maybe probably not the thing I don't have an awful lot of an issue with, but it's maybe as like the sort of weaker aspect of the sort of story for me. This whole sort of raging war on all the proctors and everything, especially Apollo, wasn't it? The way I sort of do struggle a wee bit with this, although I will admit that the big bear scene I thought was pretty cool. I thought that's pretty sick, having Darrow having to run up that tree to get away from the bear. Apart from maybe the Cassius betrayal scene, I do think this is probably the weakest section of the 5 you're going to discuss. But I still, again, overall, I'm still very happy with this section. I still think it's quite compelling. I think there's a lot here to sort of keep you interested. But although I do think it's maybe slightly can drag a little bit.
Yeah, I think I remember the first time that I listened to it, and particularly the scenes in the cave with Mustang and the coma and all. I remember that dragging very much the first time.
I do like that, but yeah, it's definitely the slowest part of the book. Yeah. Like it's needed. It sort of sets the sort of baseline for those two characters and what will unfold between them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it probably does just take a little bit too long.
Yeah, I would agree though. I think this is the weakest, but not bad section of the book for me anyway, for sure. I do. Well, it's kind of funny. The first, I know I split this into 5, but this is, and you sort of touched on it, but this is kind of split in 2, where he falls and then starts to rise, sort of thing. Yeah, but I think the first half of that is weaker, but the second half is great. Like the stuff with the whipping and everything, I love all that. It's great. I think it's such a powerful scene, like you said, where he whips Tactus and then lets him get whipped back. It's pretty good. Yeah, Michael?
So I think I said on the last segment, it was a bit of a slog just for me personally. That continues a bit into this section, but where I start to become re-engaged with it again as that Cassius and Darrow moment. So I'm starting to get back. I'm starting to get into the game then, because until that point, the game was a bit of a slog for me. And then the Cassius Darrow thing, it kind of pulled me back in. And then you actually said you didn't say you didn't like it, but you said you found it slow the first time you read it. I actually really liked the scene with Mustang and everything. I thought it was a very much needed. I think the story needed to more, like, what's the word? Like, it needed more reaction scenes, I think. It needed more, like, reflecting on what just happened. scenes. So I think that was a very, very... I needed a reprieve at that stage just to get me back in, and I needed a bit of character, and that really gave it to me. And I warmed a lot more towards Darrow after that scene. It humanized him again after just this onslaught of things happening. And I agree with what you said about the weapons scene. I thought that was a very powerful moment and very interesting way to handle it, very unique way. And I think he has one of the there's a quote, is that when he says the quote of why they follow him, or does that come later?
I think it is this one. Yeah, I can't remember the exact quote, but
it's like you don't follow Mustang because she's the best thinker or something, and then somebody else, or you don't follow him because
like,
she's the strongest.
You don't follow me because I'm the smartest, because Mustang is. You don't follow me because I'm the strongest, because Pax is. You follow me because you don't know where you're going, and I do.
Yeah, which I think that's very true for like revolutionaries or leaders, because you follow the people with the vision. You know, that is the ultimate thing. I thought that was a great part of the book, and while the part leading into the part you described, it was still a slog for me. I felt a lot more engaged and invested at the end of that segment you described. A lot of richer character moments happened, and I felt like I knew these characters a bit more, and I felt like I cared about them more at this stage.
Good. Just one thing I remembered there as we were talking about the tactics thing. I think there's quite a funny bit, like, in reflection, where Darrow sort of says to everybody, sort of mocking them a wee bit, he's like, we're all reds. You're a red, and I'm a red. Which I think is quite funny. You know, he's effectively admitting it. Saying, like, they're all worthless until they do something of merit. Which is pretty cool. Johnny?
Yeah, just agree with a lot of what Jason and Michael said already. Yeah, some highlights for me. I like the whole betrayal, like the whole reign, Darrow's reign over the House Mars. Like, it felt very fragile, and felt, even though they were following him, and later it was kind of like, when is he going to be betrayed, rather than if he will get betrayed. And then he gets betrayed like twice in a row, which I thought was quite funny. You know, first getting led out the woods by like
Antonia,
who was it again? Antonia, yeah. And then, I thought the them killing the girl Leia was quite brutal, like quite sad. And that he just sat there and watched, but he couldn't actually do anything about it, or they'd find him. Then, him literally, then he goes back, and I think, like, you know, him and Cassie's are having like one of them brother moments, because they've lost another brother, this boy, Roke, is it? He's the one's got taken. And they are, you know, we'll find him and all, and we'll band together and all, and then before you know it, Cassius now betrays him, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, I like them, the whole downfall of him, you know, kind of being, you know, having the heal. It's kind of like he's lost everything again. This has basically happened for the second time in this book, and he has to build himself back up again and go through this healing process, and you get this almost like kind of like this awkward intimacy or whatever, but it's kind of like this, it's not really said by either of them, but we know about it just from the inner monologues and stuff with him and Mustang. And he kind of like has this confliction that she's very like EO, but he also doesn't want to be with another woman who's not EO, even though she's so similar and stuff, which I like that whole kind of conflict in him. And then him going then and, you know, realizing what he has to do and why his first rule failed, because, you know, he was just telling people what to do without making them feel valued or whatever. And now he's learned that you can tell people what they do, but you have to let them know that what they're doing is important and that they have a pivotal role in it. And, you know, because that's all people want in the end of the day. You know, they're happy enough to follow some leader. A lot of people don't actually really want the lead because it's too much for them. But they do want to still be made to be valued, which I think, you know, that can be said for, you know, real life and stuff. So I think that's kind of like him learning what makes a good leader. And I like that. It kind of like the first ruling of the Mars clan, he was becoming like a gold, and he was just becoming so ruthless and all. Whereas this time round now, he was basically doing what he thinks a gold should do, but not what he thinks the right leader should do. Like, so he is doing what, like the evil people are doing, but he needs to start creating something better, if he is ever going to overthrow the golds or whatever. But yeah, and then the whole weapon thing, I agree with you, is a very strong scene with him. I think it's funny then, there's a bit where, as in like one of the boys gets, or like the guy that then starts whipping him and like stops after 5 because he just can't whip him in it. And then like, Pac 6 starts whipping him or something, and he's like, start again, like start the count from 0, don't be starting from 5 and all. It's just to show like how fucking tough he is or whatever. But yeah,
there's a bit after that where like he's talking to Mustang and like he's, you know, she's like treating his back sort of thing, and she goes, "You made Pax cry. He's traumatized."
yeah, he's traumatized. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I like too the stuff you get more about how the proctors work in this, and like how they're sneaking around helping who they want. Like they're helping the Jackal a lot. And they're like, you know, kind of interfering, but like doing it like sneakily and stuff. And then obviously you already hate them because they like come, they watch, don't whenever there's like the duel, for example, between as in a Pax and Darrow, the first time round where like they come, they all watch and all because they just love the drama and all that. It's like it is like watching a TV show to them. Even though this is for these people, this is the real life and whatever. But yeah, I enjoyed this section as well. I think. The next section probably is my favourite, so yeah, looking forward to talk to that. So we'll let you move on.
I'll try and blast through this because it's the biggest one, which is annoying. But yeah, this is Rise, and I think it's very fitting for what's about to happen. So they're travelling south. They've amassed this great army of students and Oathbreakers who've now gained their freedom and whatever. They're looking for House Apollo, and on the way they come across the Apollo Primus. And they pretend to be this weak group of travellers who's fled from the north to get away from the Reaper. The Apollo Primus is like, oh, the Reaper's dead, and we have far worse monsters in the south, like hinting at the Jackal. And I think there's a one-eyed monster mentioned at one point as well. Darrow fakes a lump, and his army starts like a snowball fight to sort of make the Apollo Primus think they're weak, so like they let his guard down kind of thing. And then one night they're preparing to attack House Apollo, and Darrow and his inner circle are like speaking around a campfire or something, and they're interrupted by the appearance of the Proctor Apollo, who puts this jam field around them. And if you think of a jam field like this invisible bubble around an area that doesn't let sound or like elements like the wind or whatever in or out, and communications technology doesn't work in there either. Then he sort of tells them that they're all stupid and foolish and berates them for following Darrow because not all of them can win. Only he's going to win, and he's going to get all the rewards if they do what he wants, basically. So he's trying to turn them against them. At this point, Severo, who has returned, who managed to meet up with everybody again, he sort of states that he's going to take a piss, and he leaves the jam field, and they're like, oh, whatever, it's fine, just let him go, whatever. And they spend some time talking back and forth with Apollo, and he reveals that he's going to intervene if they attempt to attack his house, and he will like wreck them, basically. So they kind of keep up this conversation for like 5-10 minutes or something before the other proctors who are like also listening from within the jam field, they sort of realise that all the students have removed their rings, and Darrow sort of asks Mustang how far Severo can run in the time that's elapsed since he left. So Apollo, realising that it was a trap, removes the jammer, and you're sort of met with all this chaos that's going on around them because Darrow's army has already begun the attack, so it's like a sort of surprise attack, and House Apollo ends up falling in. I think it's after this that Fitchner visits Darrow and tells him that he's done well and that he needs to stop because he's going to get killed, and Darrow manages to subdue him and like knock him unconscious, which I think Fitchner laughs at, which I love Fitchner's character, by the way. I think it's really funny. So yeah, he knocks him out, and Darrow's army starts to celebrate in the castle. Around this time, this fellow Lucian appears, and he is supposedly a defector of House Jupiter, and he sort of surrenders him and his men to Darrow and says like, I'll help you if you don't enslave us and whatever. I think Darrow offers him the same conditions as the rest of the army. They have to sort of prove themselves and help him take a castle before they can be fully accepted. Then Darrow tells his army to get drunk, but none for Lucian or his men because like they have to earn it, like he said. He spends like the next couple of hours talking with them, and then before asking him to play a game, And all this time, it seems like Darrow's starting to speak more slurred, and he seems to have got really drunk. So he pulls out this bag of house rings, and he's like, "These belong to the dead kids that we found." And he kind of goes through each one of them. He's got one from every house, I think, but no House Pluto rings. And he sort of indicates Lucian's ring hand and stabs a knife into it. And then Darrow reveals that he was pretending to be drunk the whole time, and he knows that this fella is actually the Jackal in disguise. And so, knowing that he's caught, the Jackal drops the Lucian act, and they talk for a wee bit. And I think there's a good bit here where he reveals how he got his nickname, which is that House Pluto had like an accident at the start where they were in some cave and it collapsed on them, and they were stranded in there for weeks. So rather than starve to death, he decided that the strong members of the house would eat the others. So they did a bit of cannibalism, which alludes to a jackal, which is an animal that if you get it in a trap, it will gnaw its own leg off to escape. So Darrow, hearing this to embarrass him, tells him that he'll let him go if he cuts his own hand off, knowing that the average gold doesn't do that sort of thing. They their appearance is everything sort of thing. And the jackal laughs at him and starts cutting his hand off. It's just shows how sick this guy is. It's not even the sickest thing that he does as well. That's the funny thing about it. And Darrow can't believe it, and he's like, I can't let him escape. So he decides that he's going to have to like capture him, like lock him up anyway. During this madness, Apollo has had time to sort of get himself together, and he like throws an explosive into the room, and the jackal is able to escape because of that. And they also capture Mustang in this time. So Darrow chases after and ends up fighting Apollo, and Apollo is one of these peerless scars, so he's like a monster and absolutely wrecks Darrow really easily. And he says he's going to kill him, lifts him up into the sky using his grav boots, which allows you to fly. Chastises Darrow before dropping him to his death. But another surprise from Darrow, he just happens to float there. And Darrow uses Apollo's confusion to sort of stab him in the face with this knife ring that he's got, and ends up killing him. And he states a great line, which is, "You reap what you sow," and I just love that. So Apollo is now dead and sort of falls to the earth, and yeah, it turns out that Darrow had stolen Fitchner's grav boots after capturing him, because he knew that this was probably going to happen at some point. So just shows that he sort of mastered the game, sort of thing, and he's one step ahead of the Proctors. But at this point, Darrow changes tact, realizing that Apollo didn't leave when his house lost, so the remaining Proctors probably won't either, and they've taken Mustang. So he decides it's time to end the game his own way, which is by storming Mount Olympus. Now, I haven't mentioned Mount Olympus, but it's mentioned a few times throughout the book. This is where the Proctors live, essentially, and it's like a floating, I don't know if it's a city or just like a wee floating like building or whatever, but it's got like it's where they live, and it's supposed to be like allude to the Greek Mount Olympus, and it's like set up to be like heaven. So they all have like pleasure chambers up there and armories and all this madness. So he decides he's going to go up there and defeat all the Proctors and embarrass them, and then using the armories that are up there, he's going to just annihilate the other houses. So using Apollo and Fitchner's grav boots, they transport several members of the army up, and they just raid the armories and take over the whole place. They save Mustang and capture some of the Proctors. Then, believing that he's won, because now he's got a far superior arsenal to every other house, he sort of sends Mustang and half the army to go capture the Jackal, while he prepares to assault House Mars and whatever houses remain. I can't remember what the other ones were. He brings Fitchner up, and he starts speaking to him, and Fitchner reveals that you're a fool because Mustang is actually the Jackal's twin sister. So the final big twist is that this girl that he's spent all this time with is actually the twin sister of his, rival, effectively. And Darrow sort of panics and, tries to muster what force that he can to attack Mars, so that he has enough men to fight the Jackal, who now will have half of his own army, as well as his own, the Jackal's own army. So he thinks he's messed up again. So he goes down to Mars, but they end up surrendering him because they're sort of like, their whole thing's depleted and they've sort of given up. And Darrow sets out to meet with the Augustus twins, so the Jackal and Mustang. But he comes across them, and Mustang actually has the jackal bound, gagged, and I think he's naked as well. And she sort of throws him down in the snow and declares that she's loyal to Darrow and the army, which was I think was a nice ending. I thought this was going to be the big twist where, like, you know, he's messed it all up sort of thing, but no. So yeah, Darrow ends up winning the Institute and becomes Peerless Guard. And after the award ceremony, the Arch Governor comes up to him, this big cheater, you know, he's about to get outed as a big cheater and probably shamed or whatever. Comes up to him and offers him an apprenticeship, and Darrow realises that this is, you know, if he accepts this, it's probably in return for his silence about the cheating, which, yeah, I mean, fair enough. But he also knows that this is going to be the most valuable offer that he can get for the Sons of Ares, so he accepts, and that's how the book ends. Oh, and one other thing, there's a scene with Cassius where Darrow goes back to Mars, and Cassius sort of declares a blood feud between them before leaving. And yeah, that's how the book ends. I think it's a good ending. What about you guys? Jason, what are you first?
Yeah, I would agree. It's a good ending. I feel like you sort of expect the big sort of fight scene next to sort of come between Darrow and the Jackal, but it's actually more the sort of Mount Olympus stuff that happens beforehand. I do like that sort of little bit of tension that's sort of brought up between, like, Mustang defecting, but actually she hasn't defected and she's came back and saved the day almost. I thought it was pretty good. I think my favourite bit about this end bit is getting the sort of backstory of how insane the Jackal is. I just sort of like that it's sort of left in that Darrow has already got a few enemies. I know it's something Johnny's already mentioned, like, it's not the most self-contained story because we know that it is setting up for sequels in that way, which I don't think necessarily detracts from the story, but I think you can maybe make the case that it is sort of leaving things on a bit of a cliffhanger, but I don't necessarily, as I say, I don't think that takes anything from it. So yeah, I like the sort of whole ending, Cassius with the blood feud and Jackal being completely embarrassed by his twin sister, and sort of what that's going to lead towards in the coming books.
Yeah, this last bit for me, there's a lot of twists. It's constant twist the whole way to the end, and I kind of like that. But yeah, the Jackal's madness, that's very clear here. He's not your average gold, and that definitely sets him up for later.
He's insane.
Right, Johnny?
Yeah, I thought the ending was very good. Like the Jackal's been made out to be kind of like, as you found out from Darrow, that you almost think, or like from what Darrow's like encountered with, like, you know, the Proctors like offering, or like, you know, trying to get him to win, essentially, get the Jackal to win. It kind of seems like he might be just like a pampered son of somebody very powerful, and he's not much of a threat himself. It's more his dad or his follower or the people around him. But then it turns out the Jackal himself is a very deranged and obviously dangerous character. So I thought that was quite good. I think there's a part, isn't there a part earlier, just a couple chapters before, where Mustang says that cheat or be cheated, and then isn't that the Jackal says it then? And then it's just like, oh, familiar. So I think at that stage then I knew that it was going to be his sister, or like somebody that grew up with him at the very least, because it's like, you know, why would you say the same thing? You obviously had the same influences as a child. So yeah, I think that was kind of the part where I realised what was going on there. And yeah, I kind of never for one second thought that there was going to be a defect. I knew that I thought there was like some kind of feud going on between her and her brother. I just got that impression. Especially the twin. I'm assuming, we don't know yet, maybe he's know from the future books, but I'm assuming it's something to do with, you know, growing up as twins and like the brother being the favoured one, even though they're the exact same age, and she should be entitled to the throne, or not the throne, or whatever, the power that should be given to her. What else? Oh yeah, the whole thing with Cassius I thought was quite good. The way it was like the Mars had surrendered, and like he kind of, before he goes to meet Cassius, I think the other people from Mars are like, you know, talking with Darrow and telling him Cassius just wasn't the same after he thought that he killed you and stuff, and he just kind of broke him. And it's like, yeah, he just, you know, just couldn't handle that kind of doing that to like someone you were so close to. But then I thought it was going to be a case of him like being all apologetic to Darrow, but then he just goes, "No, I hate you and all, and you know, next time we meet, one of us isn't leaving and we're going to finish this out," which I thought was very unexpected. I thought it was going to be like they make up and stuff, and it was kind of like he forgave him for that he had no choice to kill his brother, but it was like, no, Cassius just cannot forgive it. Like I think there's a good line, I can't remember the exact line, but it kind of says there's, even though he is broken at this point and he obviously is done with this game and he needs to get out, it's kind of like there's some things he can't forget or forgive. So I think that's set up well for the next rest of the next books or whatever. But yeah, the actual ending itself then with the Darrow getting offered the important position, I thought was, that is what his goal was essentially from the Sons of Ares, was to kind of make himself a big name and get into a powerful position so that he has a lot of influence. So yeah, kind of satisfying that he did achieve that. And I definitely look forward to the other books, which we'll read sometime in the future.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to recommend them again. Another one soon. So good. Spoilers. Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, Stephen, I agree with what you said, that it is a good ending. I thought this was really well put together. Everything coalesced really well. When I say this, I mean it as a compliment, but you might not like what I say, but I thought it was Sanderson-esque. It reminded me
That's
of it. The way that everything kind of avalanches and all the twists and revelations come out, and I really enjoy that kind of ending, which is part of the reason why I enjoy Brandon Sanderson books, and why I enjoyed this ending. I thought it was really well put together. It was really a really well crafted ending. It had a bit of I don't want to spoil another book, but I'll not say specifically what happens in Ender's Game, but I think the ending was influenced by that book as well. I like the whole bait and switch where you kind of think the ending is going to be the confrontation with the Jackal or something, but then they go up to Olympus itself and fight the Proctors. And just to go back to the Jackal, I thought the revelation of who he was and the whole knife and the hand and that scene, I thought was really well done. It was a really intense scene, and I enjoyed it. And the way things left, the conclusion, again, well done. I have no complaints about it at all. The setup was really, really good, and the whole family dynamic that was put at play there with the Augustus family, and I agree with Jonathan where this is the second time I listened to it, and then I read the text, so I've experienced this sort. But I remember the first time that I listened to this, it was also unexpected for me. I thought Cassius and Darrow were going to make amends at the end, and it was interesting that the feud was just kept going. I thought that was a good direction to take it, and slightly unexpected. But overall, I thought, strong ending.
You just reminded me there. There's something I didn't touch on is in that. So the Augustus family is like one of the three most prominent families on Mars. The second being the Bologna, and they hate each other. So Cassius's family hates the Mustang's family, and so that blood feud is even intensified even further when Darrow accepts the Archgovernor's offer, because it's like, okay, you killed our son, and also now you're spitting in our face, sort of thing. So yeah, it's good. Can you imagine if they made amends and then he did that? Nightmare.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good. Good. Well, that's the end of the book. Anyway, will we go on to the ratings?
Yep.
Cool. All right, let's move on to ratings. Star wipe. It's ratings. I suppose I'll go first. I think it's not going to be any surprise for anybody, but it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I love this book. The series as a whole, and this being the first one, is just phenomenal. I love being immersed in this world, and I can go back to this first book and the whole series time and time again. So yeah, it's easily a 10 out of 10. I think I would give the whole series, except maybe the fourth book. Just knew what I'm talking about. 10 out of 10. Yeah. It can be grim, and rough, but it's such an interesting story, and I think the characters are so well written, and I love the setting. And it has all those sort of delicious, like, Game of Thrones-esque twists and betrayals and all that are just class, like. Yeah, it's not my favourite book in the series, but I can't fault it in any way, really, other than maybe the singing parts. I love Tim Gerard Reynolds as the narrator, but I don't think he can sing. Yeah, whoever wants to go next can go next.
I'll just jump in. I would agree with you about book number 4 for reasons we probably shouldn't discuss.
Yeah,
but Tim Gerard Reynolds as narrator is also fantastic. Yeah, I 10 out of 10. I just really do love this book. I really do love this series. My flaws are only minor. I don't think it really detracts from the story. I don't think I had enough of anything to even deduct any points. I do just love this book. 10 out of 10.
I guess I'll go because I think Michael will possibly be the lowest score. Just a guess. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. This is the first time I've read it and even heard of any of the story. I know you and Jason have mentioned it a lot, but I don't think I ever knew anything about it. Definitely think it would make a good TV show or movie or whatever. It's got that kind of thing, maybe just because of the whole Hunger Games, Maze Runner, all that set up at that time. It was just lower down the pecking order, but maybe in the future, if it ever comes full circle, that teenage dystopia kind of thing. But yeah, thought I never talked about the narrator, but thought the narrator did a very good job. Obviously, an Irish accent, and he's discussed earlier on the book the links between these, like an Irish pilgrims and stuff, or refugees. But yeah, I really enjoyed all the game stuff in this, and even thought that the opening stuff was quite good as well. So overall, I would say I had strong like towards this book, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Nice. Just to touch on something you said there, I think there is talks of it becoming a TV show at some point. I hope it's a TV show anyway. I don't think movies would do it enough justice, but yeah, hopefully that's coming soon.
Yeah, definitely watch that. It's got perfect kind of setup to be a TV show or movie.
Yeah, so just anybody who might have skipped the last episode and only listens to like the book episodes, just to let you know, you've probably heard we're using 1 to 10 scale now, and not only is it different numbers, it's a completely different scale. So like it's not an 8, and this isn't the same as a 4 in the last one. It's a completely different scale we're using. I will put the scale in the description if you want to see what we're actually using. But for me, this book, I think I've represented my opinion pretty well, that it is a bit of a mixed bag for me. The first 35%, 30, 35, whatever, I really enjoyed. I thought it was a really, really strong opening. It's probably my favourite part of the book. The introduction to the game, that's where it dragged for me. And as I said, I got a bit cold towards Darrow, and I struggled to latch on to something on the game for a while. It wasn't until the Cassius finding out, and then the Mustang thing, where I was drawn back into it. And then the book ends really, really well. So I would say, I don't know what the percentages work out, but it seems like I really enjoyed the majority of this book, but there was a significant section that I had issues with, so that would detract it down. Jonathan is correct. I'm going to give it the lowest score, but it's not much lower than what he gave it. It's only 0.5 lower than what he gave it. I'm going to give it a 7.5 because on our scale, a like is 7, and like just feels a bit too light on this book. Really like is an 8, and that feels a bit too strong. So yeah, 7.5 feels about right where I am with this book.
I'll take it. Happy days. Good. Yeah, I think that's everything from me hosting wise. We were going to switch up the format a wee bit here. Normally we go into like what else we're consuming and stuff before the next pick, and also comparisons to other media, but we sort of sprinkled that in a good bit, and I don't have any trivia. So yeah, what we're going to do is move on to the next pick. So who's next? Johnny, you're next, right?
It is me, yeah.
Over to you.
Okay, so yeah, in the past I was the one who chose the book Norse Mythology because of my love of mythologies, and we're going to cover another book about mythology, this time covering Greek mythology. And the book is Mythos by Stephen Fry, and also read by Stephen Fry. I'm pretty sure we've all read or at least heard of this book before.
I was looking at buying it literally just the other day. I've never actually read it, so good timing.
Well, there we go. Yeah, well, just to give a very, very small summary, like this kind of covers the early stuff in Greek mythology, i.e. like the gods and what came before the gods. So like the next book in this series, Heroes, so that's more about, Achilles. Well, Achilles is covered then more in the Troy one, but like Hercules and Jason and Theseus and stuff. So this one focuses more on like the Titans and the Greek gods, and then like all the kind of like sub demigod like creatures like the nymphs and all that kind of stuff. But it's basically just like the Norse mythology book that we did in the past. It's kind of like a load of different Greek mythology stories. But yeah, it's done by Stephen Fry. He actually wrote it as well, because he himself is very into mythology. But yeah, looking forward to doing it.
Nice, yeah, me too. There's a nice wee link there, obviously, because of the Greek.
That's what I was thinking.
So I like that.
I've listened to
that
audiobook twice, so this will be my third time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about that one.
Yeah, this will be my first. Yeah, I was strange. Literally the other day, I was looking about potentially buying it, so it's a good time.
Have you read it, Stephen? Or listened to it?
No, I haven't.
No. There we go. Well, that's a grand then, actually. It's because I know, Michael, you did it last year, wasn't it? And I was going to pick it then, but then I changed my mind just because I don't want you to be doing it too soon after you've done it.
Yeah. I listened to it again for the second time last year, yeah. I think you literally said you were thinking it,
yeah,
but
well.
I think I mentioned that I had listened to it, and then you said, I was going to be my next book.
Yeah, so then I think that was maybe 2 or 3 picks ago for me, so now I'm, decided it's time.
Yeah. Yeah, looking forward to talking about that and seeing what everybody else thinks.
Haven't read it. That sounds good.
Very highly rated book. So.
On the what are we consuming? And start talking madness.
Talk some bananas.
We'll do 15 minutes of bananas and then I'm going to bed.
Betty buys in 15.
Alright, yeah, sure. What am I consuming? Let me see. I'm still watching Dragon Ball Daima. It's a weekly thing. Episode 10 just came out and it was really good. There's a new Majin. You know Majin Buu? There's a new one.
Right.
And he's terrible.
Seen that? Majin Ku.
Majin Ku,
Majin Ku.
He's like a Cyberman infused with Cyberman, so he's terrible. It's pretty funny.
Right.
They're so creative with the name.
I think it's supposed to be a joke because he's like a joke character. Do you know? But
they're going to make him stronger.
Yeah, so TV show wise, I just started watching that one on Amazon Prime, Invincible, the animated superhero one.
Oh yeah, I've watched that. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but yeah, pretty good. Kind of like got like a bit of boys vibes about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, but enjoying that.
It's
so
like
far.
Dragon Ball Z meets the boys.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's decent. Let's see what else. I've been still playing a bit of Call of Duty. Playing a bit of Assassin's Creed back on the Assassin's Creed. There was the new one's been announced. It's like, announced a while ago, but the trailer I think came out for it, something like that. But it's going to be set in like Japan. Like I think people have been wanting this one for ages. Like that there's that game Ghost of Tsushima, however you say it. It was like an assassin game and samurai and stuff, but Assassin's Creed is actually going to cover that area too. So be quite interesting. But yeah, I want to go through. So I think last time I was starting the 3rd one, so I'm almost finished the 3rd one now, and then going on the Black Flag, which is more of a pirate game, but still an amazing game nonetheless. But yeah, going to try and bomb through that. Not much else exciting, to be quite honest. Kind of doing a bit of programming work and stuff, so yeah, I've kind of been spending a lot of time doing that at the minute. So yeah, I'm not been doing too much else consuming.
I'll just focus on the main things then. I've finally got around to the 2nd season of Arcane, which is a show that I really loved the first season. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. The 2nd season is really good. There's a bit of controversy about like certain things that were cut out, I didn't actually read why the reason was, but like it makes some things, it like jumps to things without the context behind them. So some of the stuff doesn't make sense, but it's still a really, really great show. I'm just like, I don't know why that happened. I watched a Netflix movie, Subservience, with Megan Fox. It was like an AI one that's trending at the minute. It's very, very middle of the road. It's like there's nothing that you have not seen before in that movie, but it was a good, like, turn off your brain kind of movie to watch. I've been listening to Kendrick Lamar's newest album, GNX. Had that on repeat. It's a really, really good album. Enjoying it. Jonathan's not a fan of Kendrick Lamar, as I learnt on our other show that we do. Yeah, I know. But that is pretty much it. Reading some books and stuff, and yeah, that's the main things.
Yeah, I've just been doing a lot of reading recently. If anything, I'm getting too many books out of the library and can't keep up. Most of that has been Brandon Sanderson books. I think I spoke to you very briefly, Michael, about the Skyward series.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I've actually managed to read the first 2 books in that. I've got the third one read out, but I picked it up the other day, and they also had the second book in the Mistborn series, which I reserved like 2 months ago, so I wasn't expecting to get that. So I'm sort of stuck now. I think I'm going to read the Mistborn book first, just because it's a bit longer, and then try and finish the Skyward series before returning to the Mistborn saga. I think I mentioned, like, I've literally just finished reading Mickey 7 there the other day, which is being made into a film by the guy that made Parasite, starring Robert Pattinson. It's called Mickey 17, actually, the film, but I thought the book was okay, to be honest, but I would like to see the film. I think the film, hopefully...
Parasite was such a good movie. Off topic.
Yeah. I would like to see the film, though. TV show wise, I've been watching that series. I finished that series, The Day of the Jackal, and I would highly recommend. I thought it was amazing. Me and Mary Kate absolutely.
Is that about the jackal from Red Rising?
No, it is not. No, it's
No,
Eddie Redmayne playing like a hitman, essentially. That's actually class. I really didn't think I would like it from the adverts, but we just stuck it on and like instantly sucked in. Like, it's all about MI6 and just globe-trotting, spy, adventure, lots of action, lots of drama. Very good. And video game wise, I mean, I've not really touched much. I think I've maybe in total played 3-4 hours of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero since we last spoke, but I've not really done much video gaming recently. Too much reading.
Yeah, so if you guys want to email us about anything, any recommendations, or just to say hello or express any thoughts, you can get us at the audiobookclubpodcast@gmail.com. It'll be on the description there as well. If you would like to follow us, we have several social medias, I believe, Jason.
Several, yeah. Not very good at using them, but
we're on BlueSky anyway. I think that's Audiobook Club, or the Audiobook Club. I think you've got us on Instagram too, don't you?
I have an Instagram. We've had a few followers to it, although part of me does think that they think we're maybe another podcast, which is a bit disheartening. But,
I'll put the links anyway in the description. If you would like to follow me, I'm at Michael John Kane on BlueSky as well, because I hopped on that bandwagon. This will come out anyway on the 1st of January, so our new podcast, What's the Crack with Albums, where we talk about music, that one will be coming out on the 4th of January, just a little promo episode, and then it'll be weekly releases from there. So I'll have the link to that as well and the description when it comes out. But that's everything from me. If anybody else has anything to add, I kind of took the spotlight and said everything.
Oh, well, I just have my blogs that I'm working on my next one at the minute, so hopefully I have something out in the next month. But that's it.
Yep. Grant. Is that us then? Signing off?
I think that's
I
us.
think so.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Sounds good.
See you on the flippity
flop.
flop.
Thank you. Good night.
See you on the
I
flop.
forgot to eat I forgot to eat a human. There's cannibalism in this book.
God's sake, Michael.
Well,
There's still
get the
time,
next
Michael.
thing.
You can do that and then edit it in like you did.
I'll do it.
You could drink in the next book. You have to drink some nectar of the gods, ambrosia.
I'll do that
Sounds
as well.
good.
I'll wash down my human being with nectar of the gods.
See you later. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.